The ISIS group has claimed responsibility for a deadly bus attack targeting the Shia Hazara community in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The attack is the second in weeks against Afghanistan's historically oppressed Shia Hazara community. More details in the following report.
Afghanistan's Hazaras and the other Shia Muslim communities have faced decades of abuse and state-sponsored discrimination, including by the ruling Taliban. The oppression includes arbitrary arrests, discriminatory taxation, displacement from their traditional territory, and summary executions, according to the United Nations officials. The recent blast in the Dasht-e-Barchi district, a Hazara stronghold, killed 7 people and wounded 20, police said on Tuesday. The attack was the second targeting the oppressed community in recent weeks. ISIL took credit for the attack, saying via its Amaq news outlet that it had detonated an explosive device on a bus carrying Shia Muslims, according to the site intelligence group. The group claimed a deadly explosion in a sports club in the same neighborhood that killed 4 people and critically wounded 7 in late October, according to Taliban authorities. In other incident, a suicide bomber blew himself up among worshippers attending Friday prayers at Imam Zaman Mosque in the city of Pole Khomri in northern Afghanistan, martyring about 40 Shiites and injuring 60 others. In the late 19th century, Pashtun ruler Abdurrahman Khan sought to bring the Hazara people in their homeland of Hazarajat under his rule. He waged a brutal war against the community, which resulted in bloody massacres, looting and pillaging of homes, enslavement, and the transfer of Hazara land to Pashtun tribes. It is estimated that Hazarajat lost some 60% of its population to ethnic cleansing, which has led some scholars to term the carnage a genocide. Over the following decades, Hazaras continued to face repression, discrimination, and socio-economic marginalization. Many were forced to conceal their identities to obtain state identification. Until the 1970s, a large percentage of the Hazara population could not access higher education, enroll in the army, or secure higher-level government jobs. In 1998, as the Taliban was attempting to establish full control over Afghanistan, it laid siege on Hazarajat, blocking supply routes and starving the civilian population. In August of the same year, Taliban fighters captured Mazar-e Sharif, a city in northern Afghanistan, going on a rampage targeting Tajiks, Uzbeks, and particularly Hazaras. Human Rights Watch estimated that at least 2,000 people of different ethnic communities, including Hazaras, were killed, and according to estimates by Hazara groups, the death toll may be as high as 15,000. On the 26th of June 2022, the Taliban detained and unlawfully executed 4 men during a night raid operation in search of a former security official. The body of at least one of those executed showed signs of torture. A woman and a 12-year-old girl were also killed during the raid. Afghanistan is estimated to have a population of some 6 million Shia Muslims, the overwhelming majority of whom are Hazara. This is Ali Al-Hadi reporting for Shia Waves.
To discuss this further, we have with us live Mohammad Gulzari from London, who is an expert on Shia Hazara genocide. Assalamu alaikum, brother. So, to begin with, why has the Hazara Shia community faced historical oppression in the region? What are the motives driving the oppression at the moment?
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you very much. Actually, the Hazara are very, very distinct by their ethnicity and by religion, because they are Shia by faith. And historically, it goes from the early end of the 19th century. The persecution started from that area. It's called the era of Amir Abdurrahman Khan. And that the reason of the persecution was not only politically, but it was religion, and also geopolitical factor was also involved. I start by the geopolitical first, because in that time it was the peak of the Great Game, which was a tussle between the Russian Empire and the British Empire, and the Afghanistan as a buffer state was in between the 2 empires, and the geographically some Hazara was living on the northern part of the Afghanistan, very close to the Russian border. That was called the Hazaras of the Kilanau. And the rest of the Hazaras, in the majority, they were in the central part of the Hazarajat. And because this is because of the this is old boundary relation issue was between the British Empire and the Russian Empire. The Hazaras being ethnically they were Turkic Mongolite, so there was policy of the British Empire to remove them from there because it was chance, because their Hazara could be, join the Russian thing. This is one of the part of the business, and the second was the reason because when the Amir Abdurrahman Khan became on throne in 1880, he had some previous difficulties with the Hazara himself, and he was actually trying to to bring all the Hazaras, because Hazarajat, it's called also Hazaristan, was very independent state in those days, and he wanted to subjugate all the Hazaras under his rule. But Hazaras never came under his rule because the whole Afghanistan was actually were divided among the tribal system, and the war was actually gradually started. And when by the May and June and July of 1892, when the Hazaras had a upper hand, and the forces of Amir Abdurrahman Khan was defeated, then Amir Abdurrahman Khan had no choice to use the religion card, and he actually issued fitwa, we call it, the proclamation or the notification against the Shia Hazaras, and it declared that the Hazaras are infidels and they are kafirs, and therefore the whole Afghanistan were all. He actually organized about 100,000 of the regular and irregular army from all Afghanistan on the basis of their fitwas, and the fitwas were basically issued in four different fitwas, but the same. The context was the same exactly on the basis of the kufriyat, or you can say infidelity of the Hazaras, and that really mobilized all the Afghan tribes, which they were all Sunnis actually, and that's why they surrounded all the Hazaras, and the war was active war was continued for the 3 years continuously, and unfortunately that war has not been surfaced till today. And in the result of that war, about 2.4 million Hazara Shias were actually, they were massacred or imprisoned or enslaved, or they were forced migrated to the out of the boundaries of Afghanistan. Mainly they fled to Russia and Persia and Iran in those days, and British India. So that was the 60%, estimated 60% of the population has been vanished. And these fitwas, that fitwa is still intact. And because during the first rule of Taliban, the Mullah Niazi in Balkh Mosque, he himself, exactly referred to those fitwas of Amir Abdurrahman Khan and said this is the continuation of that business, which still is continued today, which you have now earlier reported. Exactly, that is sometime when being an expert in this Hazara persecution, and the evidence from the primary sources, it shows that persecution or the genocide is really is a long genocide and is a perpetual, and that is still continued, and that's why we Hazara says it as genocide, and the different and various sources it approves that the Amir Abdurrahman Khan's intention was to wipe out the Hazaras from the face of earth, and particularly from the Hazarajat by force to migrate them, or to put all of the Hazaras under the sword. This is very clearly written in their fitwas, which is still available, and various primary sources is available in the different archives and the libraries. So
With that said, Mr. Gulzari, with that said, what effective measures can be taken by international bodies, including the UN, to help protect the Hazara community?
Actually, since the late 19th century till today, which is currently, which things are happening. Actually, three things are very important, in my point of view. From my point of view, that it should be the data and the monitoring of the international community should monitor all these genocide or ethnocide, you can say, And the other thing is very important, that the diplomatic measures should be taken by the foreign countries, those are in power, particularly the Hazaras in diaspora, and particularly in United States and Europe. They are very active actually, and the diplomatic measures should be taken by the different countries to prevent the genocide or ethnocide of the Hazaras. And the third and very important thing is nowadays, because you just earlier mentioned that lots of Hazaras from Pakistan, they are now by force they are moving. I mean, they are expelling from Pakistan to back to the Afghanistan, because in Afghanistan for the Hazaras left nothing, because under this the current regime of Taliban, the Hazaras are already in immense pressure of the persecution, and the humanitarian aid is very very important nowadays. So at least they should provide humanitarian aid to the Hazaras, not only inside Afghanistan but outside Afghanistan, where they are living in exile. And the third and very important thing is that accountability. Since the last 131 years, the Hazara is facing continuous persecution and genocide. The international law, or the International Court of Justice, they should recognize the Hazaras as the long genocide persecuted nation on the earth, and it should be it should be recognized by not only by the international community but also by the different European countries as well, because the majority of the Hazaras in diaspora lives in Europe and America, and they knows that, and according to the international law, Hazaras are really persecuted, and they should be declared as a community who has been genocide for the last
Thank you very much.
131 years.
Thank you very much for your time.